Come on, come on. Welcome to our Talks Anthony. Today we're going to have a insightful conversation. For those that are new to the channel, we make mental health conversations and content that's going to be beneficial to your personal development in addition to your well-being, right? Today's conversation, we're going to be talking about you are more than your productivity. I really want to take in consideration because, right, in a culture that's focused on achievement, you know what I mean, it becomes easy for us to believe that, rest or even slowing down means that you're falling behind, right? You ain't going to get to your destination, right? You're wasting your time. What are you doing, right? You're always measuring yourself up, right? So if the only time you feel as if that, your value is coming from when you're being more productive, you're taught to measure yourself by other people's worth, right? Or by the output of, you keep what you can do and just pulling away instead of you just being a human, right? This can cause us mental disclarity, right? So I really want us to take in consideration because, right, we got to pull ourselves away from the values of how we see ourselves, from how people perceive us, and measuring ourselves up to these other expectations, right? And we got to just take in consideration that we're human, right? So stick with me. So I want us to normalize the experience, right? So society often rewards productivity more than our well-being, right? So many people internalize the idea that being, busy equals that, you're more valuable, you got things going on, right? The mindset can also create us to be guilty when we're resting or doing nothing, right? And some people out there just trying to be complacent. We got to take in consideration, right? When it comes to solitude, I always advocate for solitude because you want to be able to have some insight in regards to your thought process. Like I said, get away from the noise, the distractions. You have the media and all these other things that kind of tamper with our mind, the propaganda, etc., right? But feeling pressure can constantly produce something in us that makes us feel as if that there's something wrong with us, right? So I really want us to take in consideration that some of this stuff is being conditioned in regards to our beliefs, our values, and also affects us how we're able to perform. So, So I really want us to understand that and conceptualize that in regards to, like I said, society rewards the productivity more than when it comes to our well-being. And I really want us to take in consideration of our mental health, right? So without the mind, without us feeling good, right, we're not going to be able to really glow and be our true selves and really perform to the best of our potential, right? So I really want us to take that in consideration, right? But when it comes to some psychoeducation to help us stay grounded, I really want us to give some key points, right? So human worth is not the same as productivity, right? When identity becomes tied to an achievement, it leads to stress, anxiety, and even that burnout, right? The brain needs to rest. The brain needs that reflection. Like I said, that's all too, get away from distractions, etc., right? And that connection to stay balanced, right? So we got to be engaging with other people, right? So productivity is something that we can do, right? Not something that it's who you are, right? So I really want us to take into consideration, right? We got to be able to separate ourselves from the distractions, people that's going to pull us down, right? That negativity, measuring ourselves up to other people. I always tell people to mind your business, right? Because when you mind your business, you're able to really grow, you're able to develop, you're able to really see things for face value that makes sense to right? So I really want us to take that in consideration. When people separate, their self from their identity, from their output, they build healthier motivation and even self-respect. So it's like, you got to be able to have that compassion. You got to be able to love yourself. You got to be able to see yourself the way that you want to see yourself, right? And your identity is derived from who you are, right? But I really want us to take that in consideration. It's not about your output. It's not about what you can do. It's not about the achievements. It's not about, holding that trophy. Congratulations if you have it, but it's just, there's more to it than that, right? Well, let's dive into some, practical reframing in regards to redefining your value, right? So I wanted us to take consideration. It's not just about the accomplishments. It's not just about the celebrations. It's about, a healthier way to have that motivation. Like I said, that self-respect. And please be compassionate to yourself because you got to be able to love yourself and be kind to yourself throughout this process, right? Positive mentality. So first key point off rip is that your value is not determined by, how busy you are, right? Being present, resting, right, learning, right, and growing is all meaningful in that process as well. I'll say it again, being present, right? You're not getting that anxiety because you're thinking about the future. You're not in depression mode because you're not thinking about the past. You're not fixated on that rumination with these thoughts just keep spiraling, right? You're allowing yourself to rest, recover. You need to be able to replenish that energy, right? You got to have an optimistic mindset. You got to be able to take in that learning experience, right? Can you listen? Are you able to grow? Are you able to really taking in that information, right? These are also meaningful aspects of our life, not just focusing on, the outcomes, right? So productivity is one part of that fulfillment in regards to how we're going to be able to feel, you know what I mean, which is a great feeling, but it's not everything. It's not, you know what I mean, it's also the development that we got to take in consideration as well, right? So you are a person who can produce, but your worth exists even when you are not producing, right? So even when you're resting, even when you're taking that vacation, even when you're taking that mental health, day for yourself, even when you know what I mean, having a self-care day for yourself, even when you feel me, you just want to lay down, right? You're not a bad person. So I really want to take that in consideration, because these are also part of the process for us to get that outcome, right? By us proactively taking into consideration other aspects of, these values, right? So some examples that I want to provide that are value beyond productivity is supporting someone emotionally, right? Listening to them, hearing them out, providing, that productive, positive feedback, right? Learning and reflecting, right? You're able to take in the information and apply it to your life to the best of your capabilities, right? Taking care of your mental health, right? This is what we do, right? We really got to take in consideration, how do you feel? What's your mood like, right? What about your self-care? What's going on for you? What's your highlight? What good things are going into your life, right? Gratitude, right? So you got to be able to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves. Rest is really big, right? Are you prioritizing your sleep? If you ain't sleeping, right, how are your body going to be able to perform to the highest of its potential, right? So you got to be able to take in consideration other aspects of our life and other values that we got to be able to take in consideration, and not just focus on the outcomes of that achievement. Right, so moving forward, let's talk about some micro action, some immediate application we're able to do, right? Once you know better, you're going to do better, right? So you got to be able to take in the information. So practical steps I want to be able to provide. Number one is notice when you start judging yourself based on your productivity, right? That's why I always advocate for, if possible, get that journal, write these things down so you're more intuitive what's really going on. And if you feel as if that you are confused, you feel uncomfortable, irritability, right? Let's reach out to some type of support. We got to advocate for ourselves, right? Closed mouths don't get fed, right? So reach out to a therapist if possible, a trusted friend, and have these productive conversations, right? Number two is pause and ask, right? Would I measure someone else's worth this way, right? So the same way you're able to provide phenomenal service, that love for other people, right? You got to return that to yourself, right? That's why I mentioned that word compassion so many times, that we got to be kind to ourselves. Most of us are going to be spending a lot of time alone by ourselves, right? Just based on the fact that you were born alone, you're going to die alone, right? So it's just, in that sense, you got to be spending more time with yourself. So in a real way, I just want us to take in consideration, like, rational thinking. Let's give ourselves these thoughts, but let's also think with a positive mindset, with kind compassion, right? When I measure myself up to this way in regards to someone else, right? Number three, allow yourself one moment today where you exist without needing to prove anything to anybody, right? And I've offered it, you don't need to prove anything to anybody. The only thing you're gonna prove to anybody is yourself, right? As long as you're showing up for yourself, as long as you're loving yourself, right? As long as you're doing the best for yourself, that's really what matters, right? Don't get it twisted. You want to be able to be a loving person, help other people out, right? But if you can't help yourself, how are you gonna be able to help others, right? And one thing that a clinician told me that I'll never forget is, by loving yourself, right, you're loving others, and by loving others, you're loving yourself. It's just like a kind of cross transfer type of situation. So I really want us to take into consideration that the love that we give is really powerful. It makes a difference, right? And for instance, right, the people in your life, I assume that let's say you have one person, right, in your life that provides you respect, that love, that consistency, that affirmation, right? Right. Let's say it's a friend, a cousin, sibling, right? The same way they treat you, you got to treat yourself in that same way for yourself. So I really want us to take that into consideration, like, nurture yourself like a baby. Really be careful and kind, and compassionate to yourself. So I really want us to encourage that once again, right? So rest and presence are not rewards for productivity. They are part of being human, right? The body needs to rest. The body needs to shut down. The body needs to feel safe. The body needs to, recover. So I really want us to take consideration. Don't measure yourself up to other people out there, right? You don't know what type of time they got going on. You don't know their resources. You don't know, you feel me? That's why it's important to stay in your lane, mind your business, and do what's beneficial for you. Be more intuitive. Like I said, get that journal. Start to develop a relationship with yourself. Really just understand what your mood is, how you feeling. You know what I mean? Like, put all this energy and put all this time into yourself so you're able to reflect on these things, right? Go to different environments that perhaps can make you feel much better, that can alleviate any type of stress. Ponds, lakes, take a walk, right? Get around nature, right? Get around these banks of water that's going to be able to replenish you, right? Getting that clarity for yourself, right? You got to be able to do things that are going to be much beneficial for you. But like I said, you have to make the action. You got to make these attempts, right? And I'm gonna be real with you. You may not have anybody with you, but you will gain this clarity if you make these attempts. So right. So I really want us to take that in consideration to be able to take care of your mental health. So I provided, like I said, those micro actions, which is tied into this rational thinking. We have to gain some clarity. We got to understand what's going on, right? And we got to be able to have positive reframing in regards to getting ourselves to that next transition. But you are a human, so you got to be able to embrace that, right? So your worth is not about focusing on the achievement. It's also about embracing the process, embracing that we got to be able to love ourselves and recover, right? So if productivity disappears tomorrow, how would you still be? Are you gonna be fine with yourself, right? Are you gonna be able to get back to the get back? Are you just gonna be able to just pull yourself down? I couldn't get it done. Like, what is that gonna look like for you, right? Right. So you deserve the value, you deserve the respect, you deserve that reset, right? So you are a human. I'll say it again. So even on the days when things is not getting done, you still gotta be able to pat yourself in the back, hug yourself, right? Give yourself that love. Make sure you know yourself that, you know what I mean, tell yourself that you're safe, you're loved, you can get back to it when you get back to it, but you really got to realize that you are a human, right? So do what you can, right? Get around supported loved ones, right? Get around, develop yourself like that resource, right? Get yourself a clinician, get yourself a therapist, right? Get yourself, you know what I mean, the wraparound services where you're able to have, right, like I said, the proper resources that can benefit you, your life, and your wellness, right? So you got to do what's going to be beneficial for you. But once again, like I said, you are a human, so you got to be able to embrace the process, right? So you deserve, like I said, that value. You deserve that respect, and you definitely deserve that rest, right? So if possible, get that rest if you need it. But if, right, I'm going to just wrap up here. So take it easy. See you on the next one. Stay safe.